Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Random Encounters, the show where who am I? Oh, it says right down there. I'm your cartoonist pal, Stan. I usually start with that. I'm your cartoonist pal, Stan, and welcome to another episode of Random Encounters, the show where I use random encounter tables, like the kind you find in tabletop role-playing games, such as Dungeons & Dragons, and I use them to randomly select a subject, like you might in an improv show. I can call out to the crowd. I call out to the dice, and dice give me a who, and the dice give me a what, and I put them together, and I draw a cartoon of it, all while we're hanging out here together and chatting. This is, of course, I say of course because those of you who've been watching before know it. If you're new, not so much of course. Of course, this is something I do kind of on my own. I did this on my own just as a artistic exercise, as a creative exercise, as a way to generate new ideas, and it's a fun thing to do. It's something, in fact, I do it. Those all sound worky. I also do it because it's fun. It's a fun thing to just kind of get an idea that you hadn't had before and just quickly make a cartoon of it. And I do all this because drawing is fun. I know. Some of you are a little scared of it. But just remember when you were a kid how much fun it was just to sit down with a coloring book or a blank piece of paper and a crayon or a pencil and draw. So much fun. That's what we're trying to capture here. In fact, I think we succeed pretty well. So I hope that you will consider grabbing a pen or a pencil or your favorite electronic drawing equipment and drawing along with me. You don't have to draw the same things. You certainly don't have to draw the same thing I'm drawing. You don't have to have the same subject on. Just draw for the fun of it. Something will pop into your head. You do the drawing. That's what I'm going to do. Hello, Artist Penny. Good to see you. Thank you for showing up. So, having got those preliminaries out of the way, I will say that today's episode is got a theme that I kind of subtly announced in the drawing that I did for the thumbnail that ran while the timer was going. This week is Gen Con, which is the biggest gaming convention, RPG and tabletop gaming convention in the U.S. in I think the Western Hemisphere, certainly in North America. Now I say there are probably a couple in Brazil that are bigger, so I'll just say North America. and that's going on right now. It's going on in Indianapolis, Indiana, where Gen Con is held annually. And as you can see, because I'm here with you, I'm not there. But we're going to celebrate it by having today's themes all be Gen Con related. So that should be fun too. I do all of my drawing on my iPad Pro with an Apple Pencil and the app Procreate. None of this is sponsored. I do those things because those are actually the tools I use in my day-to-day work and fun drawing. And so I use them here too. So, that's enough of that. Let us... Penny is here twice at the same time. Seeing double Penny. Which also reminds me, Penny, I know I'm supposed to have sent you an email and I haven't yet from earlier in the week. Sorry about that. It did not actually slip my mind. I've just been one of those weeks. All right. Take a deep breath, Stan. Relax. Everything's okay. And it's going to get better as we do some drawing. So let me come over here and switch the views up. And there is our Gen Con special list of who's and what's. So let's go and grab an electronic die roller. We're going to use a 4-sided die. Those of you who are not gamers may not be familiar with these. They are pyramid-shaped. You see that all the top... Look at it seems weird because you say, how do you read that? When you look at the top number, the number that's closest, it's 4 on all sides right now. That's how you do it. You read the top number on the die. So simple. All right, let's roll that die and see what we get. So we're going to go once and twice and third time. And once again, 4. 4 is our number for our first who. And once or twice a third time. And 4. I'm beginning to think this electronic die may be weighted. 4 and 4 for our first drawing. Let's see what happens when we come back to it later. So that would be a dragon in the exhibit hall. I was afraid that would happen. And the reason I roll my eyes and do that is that last year for Gen Con, I also did a Gen Con special. And the last of the 3 drawings I did was a dragon in the exhibit hall. So I guess I'm gonna start by coming to you. We've got a few people here. Penny's here twice. That means I guess she gets 2 votes. And Michael Pastor is here. I've got some other people watching and not yet commenting. Let's mix it up because I'd rather not do the dragon in the exhibit hall again. You can choose something from one of those other things, or give me a suggestion that is not on either of those lists to mix that up. And I will vamp here for a second. And if that doesn't work, then maybe I'll just go roll the dice again or pick one. Dragon at the opening ceremony, says Penny. All right. Done. See how easy that was? All right, we're going to do Dragon at the opening ceremony. And watch us roll that again next time. Have last year's dragon critique this year's. That would be a funny multiple panel cartoon, but we are doing single panels here. So we're going to turn off that. We're going to come over here, and we are going to draw our dragon at the opening ceremony. Now, the opening ceremony at Gen Con is held. So Gen Con's at a big exhibit hall, as you know, not surprisingly, if you go and check the, if you go and do an internet search on Gen Con opening ceremony, you will see these pictures. It's a fire hazard every year. They open the doors at 10 o'clock in the morning for the exhibit hall for people to come in, and while it's happening, they have a little stage in front of the doors, and they do a little ceremony. And the lobby, in fact, all of the outside of the exhibit hall, so I guess it's the greater lobby of the whole convention center, is just filled shoulder to shoulder, jowl to jowl, cheek to cheek, with gamers waiting to get into the exhibit hall. And it is an amazing sight to see, and it's also pretty terrifying. So that's what we're going to have here. We're going to have a big sea of people waiting to get in. Now that, as you know, it might be a little challenging to draw so many people, but I don't mind a little challenge. If I was going to do this, as a finished cartoon, I would take some more time, and I would put some interesting people in the crowd too. But as it is, it's just going to be a lot of circles and shoulders for heads as we do that, because we just want to get a quick little drawing. And in fact, I tell you that what I produce on this show often is very like what I would do in my what is it the kids call it these days, ideation, as I was coming up with it. So if I were coming up with this idea just for the fun of it in my notebook, it would look a lot like this with not a lot of details. But I think you'll be able to see when we're done that if I was going to do this for publication, I would spend a little more time on the people in the crowd and make them a little more interesting, a little more not just detail, but give them extra character. Alright, so I think I want to make that a little bigger. This takes up some more space. He's going to be in the opening ceremony, and he's going to say, "For Paler's sake, walk, don't run." And the other thing that happens after the opening ceremony, when they do open the doors, is that all of these people run into the exhibit hall. Each of them has a booth that they want to get to. There's something that they can buy there that is limited edition, or they want to get a ticket for a event that you can only get at the booth, or something like that. And it's terrifying. It really is terrifying. I've been to Gen Con a lot, and I will sometimes go upstairs to watch from the balcony at this mass of people. But the last place I want to be at Gen Con is at the opening ceremony, because it's a sea of humanity. It's terrifying. All right, there we go. Now, also, if I was going to do this for real, for publication is what I want to say, I would approach this a little differently, and I would find a space in, let me change colors for a second. I would find a space in here somewhere to draw probably Peter Atkinson, the president of Gen Con LLC, because he is always at the opening ceremony. He loves it. He loves Gen Con, and he loves this getting together with everyone in the anticipation before the show opens. He has a great time. And you know what everyone else does too. It's just not for me. And from what I understand, the fire marshals don't like it much either, and they tell them every year, you can't do that. And they try some way to prevent. They ask people, please don't line up, don't do that, and they all do anyway, because everyone wants into the convention center as early as possible. All right, let's go here. Let us switch, and we will go into our lines layer. And I'm switching over to the black ink, as it were. Still talk about these things in physical media terms, papers and inks and things like that. We're going to a new layer. We're changing the color of the digital brush. And we're going to draw this dragon. Again, I always say start with the lines you're most confident in. Very often for me that does turn out to be something about the expression, the shape of the head, or very often in this case the features that have the most impact on the drawing, because I would not have accepted the sketch until I was happy with them. And that's why here I chose the eyes. And then the mouth. Very confident about all of that. Actually, I've done enough dragons, both in my lifetime and this week, to make me feel very confident overall about drawing this dragon. It might be interesting, maybe not for this show, but sometime to just do a video about drawing dragons, and make it in part just generic, and then in part about the fact that in whatever, I mean, because dragons are fictional, each world that you're doing this in will have different rules for how dragons look and are shaped. And in Dungeons and Dragons, there are different types of dragons, and they have very different physical aspects. I'm drawing what basically is a generic kind of dragon. Could be seen. Usually, I'll make it red, but it's such a generic dragon that I really could make it red or blue or green, and it would still look okay. But big time aficionados would say, if I did make it particularly green, they would say that's not what green dragons look like. You clearly are not. You're not paying attention. The other thing is dragons. I had a discussion with someone about this. Dragons, many people think, need wings, and if they don't have wings, then they're not dragons. I don't really feel that myself, but what do you guys think? Put it in the chat. I'm trying to get better at doing this whole digital host thing. Encourage interaction. Put it in the chat. This creature right here does not have wings. Does that mean it's not a dragon? Do dragons really need to have wings in order to be considered dragons? And if so, then what is this? Because it's not a dinosaur, and particularly because I'm about to make it spitting fire. I'm going to press down a little harder to get that line to come out thicker, because that's going to be the line for the mic cable. And when I looked up just there, I saw that there was something going on in the chat. Perhaps it looked like a question. So I will look up again in a second to figure out what that question is and then answer it. Right now I want to finish this little bit here before I get to doing the crowd there. And see, going back up here. Yo, hey, Ogre, how's it going? Thank you for joining. Good to see you, my friend. Dragon Magazine had an amazing article on land dragons. Okay? I believe you. I don't remember that at all. It would eliminate all Asian. Yeah, Michael says, if you insist on wings, it would eliminate all Asian dragons. Again, yes, one of my points is why they don't need wings to necessarily be dragons. Michael says, like dolphins, they would probably lose their fingers in some vestigial, unseen way. Asian dragons, Penny says, also don't have wings. Bacon Gaming, hello. Oh, welcome. Thank you for joining us. All right, Dragon 84 says Ogre. Dragon 84 is from like 1986. Which, is really neither here nor there, except that I don't carry an encyclopedic memory of what happened in Dragon magazine in those early issues. Though, I think all of us who are D&D fans from that era and did read Dragon magazine back in our wayward youth, there will be issues of the magazine that have left such an impression that we are able to quote, and probably whole runs of them, like a 6-month run of them, or an entire year's worth of them, where we know very well what was in the magazine at that time. We can say, oh, in issue blah blah there was this, and issue, the next issue there was that, and there was a teaser for something in the next issue, and it never showed up. It was a very, very impactful part of our fandom. Alright, I'm not going to... I was about to start toying with putting some expressions on these faces, but I'm not going to. And I lied, because now I am going to put a couple of... Is there anything else you can remember about that issue 84 article about land dragons, Ogre? Or any other issues that you remember that well? I bet there are a few. I bet there are a bunch, in fact. If you're going to remember one that well, there will be more that had that kind of impact on you. Alright, it's looking like a loose crowd. And now we'll come back here and put in the lettering. For Paylor's sake is a very 3rd edition D&D thing to say, but it's one of those things that, like I say, there are things you carry with you after they're no longer active, and for Paylor's sake is just an expression, an interjection, if you will. I've been listening to some Schoolhouse Rock recently. An interjection that I like, and I want to keep using, even though the that deity is no longer as commonly referred to in D&D parlance in the current 5th edition, and probably won't be in the latest new edition, which is just premiering at Gen Con today. I saw some posts that the new Player's Handbook is now out in the world. It's for sale at the Wizards of the Coast booth at Gen Con. And we will not have any arguments or debates or conversations about people's opinion about that. Not because I don't care, and not because I don't have opinions of my own, but because I certainly haven't seen it yet, and I bet you haven't either. So until we're talking from a point of actual... I care about what you think about something you've looked at. I don't care so much about how you feel about a thing that hasn't shown up yet. Unless you are to say, well, I just don't care about it, or I'm excited about it. Those things I care about. But they're pretty quickly said and done. Alright. I'm going to now switch over to colors. And I'm going to turn off the sketch layer. It's looking pretty good. I don't know. I'm going to come back to the lines layer for a second. Looks like there are a few places where I wish that I had added in just a couple extra lines. Doesn't really matter, but they help pull it together, give it the feeling I want. So I'll put them in like that. Alright, there we go. And I'm now going to go back to the colors layer. And I'm going to switch over to the gloaming brush. This is one of the brushes that comes prepackaged in this app, and I don't know exactly what it would be called in another app, but it gives this kind of crayon-y markery effect. It allows me to do very quick coloring. Go. That is a little bit transparent, and as I say, has a crayon-y markery feeling to it, and so it gives the feeling you might get while doing coloring in a coloring book, and that's really what the kind of effect that I'm looking to get here for the stuff we do on this show. And also, I think, in fact, I often will talk about things that you can learn and do using this kind of style in when you're doing coloring with crayons or markers. Now, if we're going to color this for a publishing thing, I would probably go for a different, darker color for those spines. But for here, I think that just the same red works fine. Come there. Whoops, a little too much. I want to go with a blue faux black for the mic. A bluish gray for what you're holding on the mic. I want to come to a light brown, like a wooden brown for the stage, and then we can color in there. Like that. Darker version of that for the side of the front side, and even darker version for the side. And then I think I'm just going to do like a very light green. I'm going to pass it over the whole crowd like this. You see this is sometimes in political cartoons or other kinds of comics where they want to give a sense of color or shape to something, but they want you to know it's a way of saying these details don't matter. This whole mass, this is one thing. So we're going to color it all in a broad stroke like that. And then, tell you what I am going to do. I'm going to make a little darker version of that. And we're going to go in and we're going to add a little bit of details. Oops. Smaller brush. And put, bigger than that. And just put a little hinted shadow on parts of them so that you can, it sends that kind of a mixed message, and it tells you that these things are not important, but it also tells you for sure this is not a single object, or it's not a single shape. This group has a lot of shapes within it, and this is doing the same thing as putting shadows on an object, like I'm about to do for the dragon. Come in, we grab the color we use, we make it darker, and then I put that shadow to help define it just a little more. Give it a little sense of texture and shape, and it also makes your coloring just look, it makes it pop. People will be much more impressed, or they'll be especially impressed when they look at something you're drawing, and you can create this little bit of texture and shape, and it feels like you've added so much more, because it makes the brain think about something that it otherwise wouldn't need to think about. There you go. Maybe the yellow also. It's a weird one because definitely want to make it darker. Just a little bit darker in yellow doesn't work as well. There we go. And then I'm going to pick kind of somewhere between a purple and a magenta. Maybe a dark purple. For the see, you notice that I made that the word balloon. I made it not just a single line, so I could do that, and adding that color gives the feeling that it's shouting. In fact, I'm also going to do this. There we go. And the one last thing I wanted to add, I don't know if I started to say this or just said it in my head. I'm going back to my line drawing brush, and I'm going to put in a little flame coming out of his mouth. Like that. Now, once again, see that I've missed some bits of conversation in there, a couple of which look like they might be questions, so I will look up in a second and go there. I'm trying to decide. Maybe I do need to put a line on that. Just a little bit of a line. And just on the underside. So the line is now serving the same purpose that those shadows that I made did. It's just giving a little extra shape to that. And down here at the bottom, I'll put my Stan on it. And we will have a dragon at the Gen Con opening ceremonies. Ba-da-ba-ba-doo-boop. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Oh, apparently I missed a fair. I'm going to scroll back and see what we got. Let's see. Bacon message Stan on Facebook at you. Okay, well, I'll look forward. If I haven't seen it already, I look forward to seeing that after the show. Dragon 84 was your first. See, you never forget your first issue, do you? What was the cover? Bacon says, I miss the old Dragon. Yeah, I miss Dragon magazine too. I really do miss the loss of a physical magazine in our gaming space. There were very few magazines that did what Dragon did. It certainly, over its lifetime, it waxed and waned over what it was doing. Sometimes it was an all-purpose gaming magazine. A lot of times it was a house organ for TSR or Wizards, or eventually became just Dungeons and Dragons. Right around the 3rd edition time, it specifically became the source for 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons support, which is fine. I have no problem with any of that. Yeah, I really do miss Dragon. And the companion magazine, Dungeon. Dragon was a lot of articles about running games and all kinds of things. Dungeon was just adventures. You could get a magazine with 3 or 4 adventures every month, and that was pretty terrific. The scintillating dragon was nasty. Let's see. Try to type in AD&D combat calculator. My favorite Dragon magazine was one where Janelle Jakeways did a painting of the 2 Thorn worlds. They were actually from M5 Talon of the Night, but she told Spelljammer fans to use them with Spelljammer. There you go. I did not know that. I remember that. I didn't know that. Oh, Janelle. Yeah, I miss Janelle. Paylor has always been a favorite of mine. Yeah, Paylor is so good as a fake deity to use invective with. Oh, for Paylor's sake! Paylor, damn it! YouTubers saying YouTubers have been under a gag. Yes, there are people who have seen the got advanced copies of this new player's handbook, but it all came with a non-disclosure agreement. Right? In order to see it, they had to agree not to talk about it until it was released publicly. Got to run going to the Rainiers going to AAA baseball for those of you who aren't here in the Pacific Northwest. Have a good time. I haven't been to a Rainiers game this season. I got to get out. That's a really good that's a good idea, particularly now that the weather's going to be warm for a few days. Becky says she loves the eyebrows on the dragon. Thank you very much. I got off the edition treadmill. Yeah, well, there's a different combination. The whole kind of fans of different editions. I still play D&D in multiple editions. I like some better than others. There's at least one that I don't like much at all. But if someone's running it, I'll play it. Let's see, scrolling down here, Dale. Dale Donovan's here. Hello, Dale. Thank you for joining. And if Cindy's there with you, hello to Cindy too. Um, Other things are going on. I'm trying to catch up so we can do our next drawing. You make it look effortless, Stan. I'm going to put that up there because I like this comment so much. Presuming that, yeah, there we go. You make it look effortless. It must take a long time to make it look very easy to do stuff. Well, I mean, that's certainly true. And it's, as with all things like that, it comes out of a lot of practice. But yes, I have also practiced drawing quickly. I tended to work that way anyway, and I found that was a marketable thing, and was good for entertainment like this. So I've practiced it. But yeah, and part of it is tricks. Right? Part of the things you learn when you do it are the tricks of working in. And I talk about this sometime. Working in large shapes, thinking of things, breaking them down into large shapes, and not worrying about the specific detail. Like, we look at that dragon, there's kind of like, I know you can't see it here, maybe I'll add another layer so I don't mess anything up with this. Let's see, let's grab a bright red. So we've got, first of all, the front of the head is kind of squared off like that, but the whole thing is kind of triangular. In fact, the dragon here is made up of those triangles. The legs are kind of triangles. The tail is kind of a triangle. So when I draw a dragon, I do all of my sketching of it in these. I think about it as a series of triangles, and I work very quickly from there. Again, that's practice. So there you go. Little tip for you. All right, almost caught up here. Gygax magazine was pretty good. There have been, let's talk about magazines. There have been some very good magazines. Most of them don't last very long. I mean, it's hard. It's a tough business. It always has been, but in recent years, it's gotten worse. It's gotten tougher. I did comics for Kobold Quarterly magazine, which ran for 28 issues, which is at 4 issues a year, somewhere between 6 and 7 years, which is a good long run, and it spawned the current Kobold Press, publishers of Tales of the Valiant, among other things. Friends of mine and people I do work with. I cannot tell you. I cannot tell you things that are embargoed. I cannot tell you about the project that I've been working with them on all year. But I'm hoping that it will be announced before the end of the year. And I think it's supposed to come out next year. But it's been a lot of fun. And I can't wait till I can tell you about it. I can't wait till I can tell you about it. But yes, Kobold Quarterly magazine was terrific. I did 2 comics. I think I'm one of only a handful of people whose work appeared in every issue of Kobold Quarterly. All right, good, caught up. Now, let's do it again. Oh, you better take a sip. Or I'm gonna run out of. Talk in the middle of my next drawing. All right, we will now close that out, open up round 2, turn back on our tables, get ready, making everything all set, and we'll go back and, oh wait, I gotta stop. Finished up one drawing, time to go for a second one, so let's head back to the dice. And come on back here. We're going to roll those dice one more time and hope they give us something other than a 4. So here we go. Once or twice, a third time. 2. 2 is our first one here. Once or twice, a third time. 2 and 1. I think that's going to go to that opening ceremony. But I know what I'm going to do there. So 2 is a beholder. 1 is opening ceremony, which we just did. But I'm going to take that 4 we rolled last time. So we'll go to the exhibit hall. We'll have a beholder in the exhibit hall as opposed to the dragon we had in the exhibit hall last year. So, beholder in the exhibit hall. I'm going to turn off the things. Now, a beholder, for those of you who may not know, is, I'm going to zoom in here and do a quick sketch. It's a big, probably helps if I turn on the layers. It's a big round floating eyeball like that, or big rounding thing with a floating eyeball and a mouth. They don't usually smile, but I'm going to make this one smile. And then they've got stalks. They've got eye stalks coming off their head, 10 of them, and each of them have an eye at the end. And beholders cast powerful magic, different magic out of each eye. Zoop, 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 zoop. And anti-magic out of the main central eye. That's what a beholder is. So let's clear that out. So we want to do a beholder in the exhibit hall. I kind of want to do the don't run joke again. But I won't. Makes me laugh. But would be a meta laugh. It's funny for us, but not going to be funny for someone watching this. So the thing about the exhibit hall at Gen Con, maybe I should start drawing before this gets too far off. Thing about the exhibit hall is it is as crowded as that opening. All the people in the opening ceremony, they're going into the exhibit hall. Now, exhibit hall is bigger, and they're moving around. They're not. It's not the fire hazard that that opening ceremony is, but it is very crowded. And just thinking about something here. It is very crowded, and it is. It's hard to get around. Right? There's always wherever you are, finding anything is really difficult, and then moving through the crowd is just hard. All right, I'm going to draw some people moving around. And then I think I want to grab our beholder here and the person he's talking to and move them. Grabbing the top of that guy's head too, that's not so good. Alright, there we go. And then I'm going to do something like what we did in the opening scene, but I'm going to draw more specific people just to give the idea of it being crowded. What I need to do is move that person off. I need a clear space so we can see back to this. This is going to be behind this wall of people moving through. But I need it to be able to see through so we can see our two main characters, which are the beholder and this person that he's talking to. And I figure the gag here is either going to be that the beholder is looking for something that he can't find, or the person is looking for something and they're asking the beholder if he has seen it. And I can figure that out. I can save that because that is going to be all dependent on how the what we put in the word balloon. This drawing can happen anyway. So I'm going to start with things like this. I'm going to now beholders have 10 eye stalks. You don't have to draw all 10. I know I've said this before. You don't have to draw all 10. You just can't draw more than 10. Like if I only put 6 or 7 here, I can say, well, the others are on the far side of the beholder. You just can't see them. And the beholder is not, you know, is a sphere. Depending on where you're around it, you see different parts of it. But if I do draw that, and there are 11, there's no excuse for that. So I just got to make sure I don't go over. If you see all of them, it'll be fine. If you only see some of them, it's also fine. If you see too many of them, that's not fine. All right. So that's going to be our main characters. You know what? I'll tell you what I'm going to do here, which is maybe a little... Why does nobody visit my booth? That's funny. In fact, if you guys want to pitch things that could be saying in the chat room, I don't have I have a couple of rough ideas in my head. I haven't selected one. If you guys have a good one, I'll use that. I'll tell you what I'm going to do here that I don't usually do. I'm going to start by drawing these characters in the front who don't really matter, mainly because they don't really matter. And I don't have to sketch them out any, because there's no way I can get them wrong. It's just people rushing around trying to get to where they're going. And I'm not going to do a lot of detail on them. I was thinking that I could also... I don't know that I'm going to do this now because I'm thinking about that. It doesn't matter, and I don't want to put too many details in. But I was thinking, a lot of people in Gen Con come with costumes, and you see them walking around in the costumes, and I was thinking that maybe I would draw people in costumes, or draw some other monsters walking around. And you know what? If this was a for publication version, I think I would do that. But for here, for what we need for this drawing, this is better. It's quicker and easier, and again, kind of like what I was saying before, if I put more detail on these drawings, they're going to seem more important than I want them to be. They are unimportant to the gag and what's going on here. So I have to be careful not to make them too interesting. Because if they pull the reader's attention, I talk about this every week. If you pull the reader's attention to something, then the reader is going to think, the reader or viewer is going to think that it's important. Because they don't know. All they can tell by is what they see. And if you capture their attention, then their thought is, that's an important thing in this drawing. You know what I am? I'm going to break my rule and I'm going to put someone in with pointy ears in there. Their Star Trek costume. Right? You can't draw too much attention to something that you don't want to be important. All right, so that's going to be our people walking around, and now we'll come to the beholder and our guide that he's talking to, who are going to get more detail and be shown to be the important things in this drawing. Let's see what's going on here. If there's anything that I... No, people still not coming up. Got a couple of ideas in there. Keep thinking, people. That's the other way that ideation works. You very rarely come up with the right solution. In fact, there almost never is a right solution. And so, even when you come up with something you like, it's a good idea to keep looking, keep working at it, keep pushing it, keep trying a different idea, and then when you run out of time, or the time comes for you to move on to the next phase, or someone says time up, however it's working in your situation, then you look at what you've got and see what your best solutions are. Sometimes you want to play with the idea you've already done. Sometimes you want to take the idea that you've done that's pretty good and set it aside and try some new ones. That's up to you. I'm going to encourage you to keep thinking. Keep thinking. We've still got some time. I've got a bunch of eye stalks to draw and that other character. One of the things that beholders, like so many, I was saying it was true about dragons, also very true about beholders, that they look very different from edition to edition and campaign setting to campaign setting. And sometimes even adventure to adventure in the same campaign setting and edition. A lot of different ways to draw beholders. I have this way I do almost all the time. This is my kind of generic beholder. But there are some that look, the eye stalks are more like writhing tentacles. Some of them, they're like very octopoidal tentacles. Sometimes they're like slithery, whippy things. Sometimes they've got, the eyes are like this. They're little bulbs on the end of the tentacle. Sometimes they're just the tip of the tentacle turns into an eyeball, or not even an eyeball, but just, so it might come out like this, and then the end is just an eye. There's so many ways to make these fictional creatures. Okay. I also like to give them make them a little warty, like that. There we go. I'm going to also give them a little bit of the motion bubbles, motion lines to show that he's floating in the air. And then we'll come back here, and the person he's talking to is going to have a little more care taken than the other people we've seen so far, so that he will seem just a little more important. He's talking to the beholder, and he's had some more care taken with the drawing. He's going, Clearly he's being asked something, I think. Maybe? Not necessarily. Alright, I'm almost there. Have you typed everything you want to put in there for me to choose for what might be going on in this conversation? I hope so. Hope so, because I'm about to go and check it out. Let's see what we got. We've got the why does no one visit my booth? And then that's it. Well, it's not that I don't like that. It's that I don't think that is ringing. There needs something else to punch it up to make it feel like that's a good comedy emotion. There's a joke in there, but it is not in itself a joke. See, I'm thinking something like the guy is asking him, "Have you seen something?" And he's saying, "Have I seen whatever? Pick a thing. Have I seen blah? I've got 10 eye stalks, and I can't keep track of anything that's going on around here." It's something like that. Something like that. Nobody move. I dropped my contact. Oh, there we go. I didn't see that in there. That is good. That is good. Though that, if I knew it was that, if I had that to do over again, I'd make all these people have different expressions on their faces. But there you go, Ogre. You win. You win, and your prize is, I'm gonna write it. I might have to change this guy's expression a little. Instead of looking at him, he's going to be looking down. I'm going to get rid of that hand too. That's not working so much there. I'm going to change his expression. Again, because he is our main guy. Nope, that's not what I want. And I'm going to change the eye position here. It's not looking, it's looking too much at the guy, and it needs to be looking down. Kind of like that. That's not quite what I want. There we go, that'll do. Fill that in. There we go. See, look at that. This is one of those things you notice as you do this more, and just those little changes. That change between. I'm going to quickly jump back and forth. Right, how that looks. I'm not changing anything other than the position of the eyes and the opening on that other guy's mouth. And as I switch them up, Look how much that changes the emotion and the feeling about what's going on. In fact, it changes how you interpret how these other eye stalks look. They don't have an expression. It's just an eye, but they really seem a lot more worried than they did in the other version. How do they put their contacts in? Well, one of the eye stalks is telekinesis. True fact. So that would be how. Nobody move. Is it? I dropped the contact. I lost the contact. Ooh, I dropped my contact. Go. And then I'm going to connect these two like that. And nobody move. Oh, I got to make that nobody move bigger. That's not filling up that space right. So I'm going to grab that text and I'm going to expand it. Make it bigger. Rotate it a little so it fits in the air. Nobody move! I dropped my contact. And there's a thing you do in lettering. There's so many things that have those subtle effects. Like those eyes, changing the position of the eyes completely changed. Like the beholder looked kind of aggressive at the start, but I moved the eye like that and he looks scared. And it changes the effect of how the eye stalks look because I changed his expression. You do that with the big letters, the big kind of shaky letters, makes it sound like he's for sure shouting. Just comparatively, this second one, that's not a particularly small way of drawing, but it's so much smaller of lettering. It's so much smaller than the Nobody Move. It gives the feeling that he's dropping his voice. He's shouting, and now he's kind of a little meeker as he figures it. So, nobody move! I dropped my contact. All right. Having done all that, we are now going to go over to the colors. We're going to turn off the sketch, first of all. Look at what we've got here and find that probably I need to add a couple of extra lines. Not too many, again, because these people are not important to the gag. But just a couple. There we go. I think also given the gag, I'm going to change some of their eyes so they're looking down. This guy up front couldn't care less. Look at him. He's not looking down. He doesn't care about any of it. Our Spock guy, I think I'm gonna make that just a small change. Really big impact. So yes, Michael Pastor, I'm making little changes to the crowd. Not making them any more detailed, but I'm just changing where their eyes are pointed, and it's helping the entire piece come together. Oh boy, much better now. All right, so we'll go to the colors. Going to come back to the gloaming brush. I'm going to make our beholder, as I often do, kind of a grayish green. Beholders, in the same way we talk about dragons can be many different colors. You see a lot of different beholder colors. It's a little too dark for me. A little lighter than that. I like this kind of grayish green. Don't know why. No logical reason why. I just do. also like for a lot of my characters, my monstrous characters, to give them purple tongues. Again, I don't know why. I just do. I'm going to use that same purple on the eye. Also going to use another pale yellow in the eye and in the eye stalks. There we go. And originally I was going to do the same thing for this crowd that I did on the first drawing, and make them make it one solid color. But now that we're involving them in the joke more, I'm going to give them individual colors, and it's not going to take. It's going to take a little bit longer for me to color this, but again, I'm gonna do a very quick job on it, so it's not going to be too much, and I'm not going to worry about it. When I'm doing the doing actual pieces, I will spend time thinking about what color hair should I give that guy, what color hair, what color shirt should they be wearing. Here, I'm not going to worry about it all. I'm just going to, well, except for the Spock guy, because he's got to wear a blue shirt. And then we will just go for some hair colors. And this is a kind of thing that I've done a lot, so I've got some go-to colors I know how to quickly mix up. Get another paint term. And not going to worry so much about what these colors are. Just so long as it's happening. And there we go. There we go. We've got a beholder in the exhibit hall. I think that'll do. Sure, I come back, put my little stand on it somewhere. Maybe over here. That's too small. I'm happy with what we've got here. So I'm going to erase. Oh, I'm going to come back to the lines layer. I'm going to erase that and make a little room for a stand in the lower corner. There we go. Beholder in the exhibit hall. Loosen. Oh, I guess I still need to add a little bit of shading. Our beholder is now looking pale compared to everyone else. I don't want to change his color, but I do want to give him some shadowing to gloaming brush. I do want to give him the shadows that we talked about before to give him the extra feeling of shape and texture. that, like that. There we go. Looking pretty good. All right, there we go. That is it for sure. Our beholder in the exhibit hall. Central eye liquefied flesh causing it. What? The Mayan-inspired devolved beholder. Okay. It's like, what are you talking about, man? Now I know. All right, there we go. Our beholder in the exhibit hall. Woo! We're having some fun tonight. I mean, it's not as much fun as being at Gen Con, but it's fun nonetheless. Okay. Shake it off, shake it off. I'll come over here and close up round 2. Turn on round 3. Open up our little random encounter tables one more time. And we'll come back and do it one more time. Let's roll one more time for a who and a what and do one more drawing. And we will we'll then call it a night and go on with our non-Gen Con weekend. All right, so here we go. Once or twice a third time. 3 is our who, and once or twice a third time. 3 is also our what. Get a lot of clumping when you're rolling a d4. There aren't so many statistical clumping. So that is a Great Cthulhu in the seminar room. You know, it's the second year in a row I put the Ennie Awards on there, and the dice just don't want to roll the Ennie Awards. And I'll tell you what, Ghost of Gygax, I'm going to do this again next year. I will do a Gen Con special. Of course I will. Of course I will. Ghost of Gygax will be on the list next time. For sure. He's staying until he gets rolled. But the dice don't lie. We're doing Great Cthulhu in a seminar room. So we'll turn off that. We'll come up here, come back to our blue and our inking brush. And I need to sip again. So the guy in the front looks suspicious. The beholder should keep several eyes on him. The guy, see, to me, that's the beauty of those things. You can interpret those expressions, and it's fun to do that. Just given an expression that could be one or another, or expressions that are just like that guy was just eyes up. So what did that expression mean? And you're not wrong, no matter what you say. But my goal as a creator is to try and give the expression that I wanted. I want you to see what I want you to see what I intend you to see. In that case, I didn't care at all. So it's all up for grabs. My thought was that he was distracted and not paying attention, not suspicious. Sure could be suspicious. All right, let's see. We are going to do Great Cthulhu in a seminar room. So first thing I need to do is... No, come on. There we go. First thing I need to do is here we're going to... So the front of the room is going to be a table from which this person giving the seminar speaks. And then we're going to have Cthulhu here. He's got a similar shape to a dragon, but his head is definitely, again, talking about how I do this, I think his head is a big egg shape, an oversized egg shape for the rest of the body. But the body itself is kind of that same triangle that I do for the dragon body. And there will be a microphone here. I was going to put a sign with his name, but it really should be like a little sign there. There it says Cthulhu. Cthulhu, of course, has the tentacles. For his mouth. Sorry, gonna sneeze again. Done. All right, and so here I think that what I want to do here, and here again I'm gonna come to you guys for the joke, is the joke is not going to be Cthulhu. It's going to be the person who stepped up to the microphone to ask a question. You know, at the end of a seminar, say if you want to, if you have any questions, step up and ask them. So that's not working. That whole thing is not working there, so I'm going to erase that. That wasn't working. I got a little too quick into the details. As I was showing before, you start with the basics, you lay it out with the shapes, and then you start adding the details. So you have people sitting in the thing, and this person will have come up to the microphone to ask a question. And oh yeah, this is on stage, so it's not just a table, it's a stage that they're sitting on. Or he's sitting on. Great Cthulhu is sitting on. And I make myself laugh. And this is why I say that this kind of thing is fun for me, because I do this. You know, you start throwing ideas around in your head, and suddenly you come up with something that tickles your funny bone. Now, however, I have to explain it to you. So here, I'm going to stop drawing as I explain this to you. The thought I have is what could this person be asking, and it could just be a normal person, or it could be a cultist. I thought it might be a cultist who's taking this chance to come in and ask Great Cthulhu a question. And then I was bouncing back and forth and thinking, well, what can the question be? And one might be like, when will the stars be right? Or how do you pronounce Cthulhu anyway? And then I thought, well, what are some of the... Cthulhu is not that hard. What are some of the other words that I would ask? And the thing that came to mind was that the city in Cthulhu mythos, the city where Great Cthulhu lies sleeping, is R apostrophe Lyeh. I'd have to look. In fact, I probably should look it up if I'm going to do this joke. So let me just see. Cthulhu real RLYH R apostrophe Lyeh. There we go. That's what it is. R apostrophe Lyeh. How do you pronounce that? Everyone's got their own thoughts. Clearly, there's not a right answer. So I thought that I usually pronounce it relay, despite the fact that it's clear that's probably wrong. I just like it, relay. So I thought about this person asking, how do you pronounce relay? And then I thought about this person asking, do you know the way to Great Relay? Which is a 1970s song pun. Yeah. So I see there are a couple other cartoonists I see which is the same thing. I'm constantly writing cartoon punchlines, which only make sense if you know 1970s radio hits. And if you do, then they're funny, and if you don't, then you're like, I don't understand what the hell you're talking about. Which cracks me up even more. So I think that is what that's what I'm going to have this person say. They're going to be saying, "Do you know the way to great what was it? Oh, I just looked it up and I don't remember. Come back here, and it was Cthulhu and R apostrophe Lyeh. There we go. Now I write it down and I won't have to remember it again. There we go. That's our gag. Sorry. Very often I invite you guys to do it. I like this one. This one's for me. I'm going to move his name thing here. I probably don't have to put it in there at all. That was kind of a joke, but not really. All right, and then I could give the person a cowl like this and robes. And then there'll be someone else in line behind them, like that. There we go. That's the joke. Are reflecting on a Dionne Warwick song. Yes, do you know the way to San Jose? Bingo! You get an old person point. Do you know the way to Great Village? Yeah. No one's going to be hiring me to be singing anytime soon. All right, here we go. Let's do some drawing and wrap this up. This is already going to be a particularly long show because I've gotten so involved in making the laughs and the talking. Ooh, and that's all right. There's no time limit on this. I just try and not let it run off too long for the sake of, everyone else's Thursday evening, and so that people won't see the length of this video and not want to watch it in replay. I'd like to get some replay views too. Now, Cthulhu, like the Beholder, I like to give him a bit of a warty, rough-hewn texture to his skin. There we go, that's looking pretty good. Cthulhu also does need little bat wings. For those of you who don't know, I did about, it's crazy to me how long ago it is, about 10 years ago, 10 or 15 years ago, I did a children's book called The Littlest Shoggoth, which is a Cthulhuoid monster. And when you're doing, and I did a little bit of a book tour and signings for it. And when you've got a book like that, or any kind of book really, and you're selling them, people ask you to do a sketch, and I'm happy to do a sketch, and I want to do one that is appropriate on the inside. And so the Shoggoth itself is like a blob, and so that was very easy to draw. But I didn't want to keep drawing that. That was very boring for me, and not very entertaining for people to watch me draw. Because part of doing those tours, doing any kind of appearance like that, is the entertainment value. You like this show, you've got to entertain your audience. You can't just give boring answers and do things in the most efficient way possible. You want to do things in the most entertaining way possible. So, to that end, before the tour, I came up with and practiced a couple of different drawings, little quick drawing that I could do quickly, and they would seem much more detailed than the amount of time I spent doing them. And one of them was a drawing of Great Cthulhu standing in the ocean. And I came to realize that it was very important to give Cthulhu the little wings, or he just seemed a little boring. I don't know that Cthulhu necessarily needs wings in the interpretation of him, how it's written, but I think it really adds. It makes it seem more than just an octopus head guy. So, as we started with the question of do dragons need wings, and now we're ending with the question of does Cthulhu need wings? And I feel more strongly that Cthulhu needs wings than the dragons do. Who knew? Okay. We're going to come here again. We're going to do a microphone. We give him a little medallion on his he's wearing around his neck. I drew the stage there, but now I want to put his hand up. So hey, give him a little posture, so it's not just a stiff body. There we go, and then again, we're going to put some nameless heads here to represent the audience. And I will do just what I did in the first drawing and give them a little bit of detail, not a lot, and then I'm going to paint them over in a single color. Yeah, looking good. Looking right. And we will write in our text here. Do you know? There's some letters I have a tendency. My handwriting, when I'm not doing this, is I have terrible handwriting and always have. But I had to teach myself how to write clearly if I was going to do comics. Now I used relay, the relay pronunciation, and I'm using it here for sure for this pun. It relies on the pronunciation that I like that most people reject, which is problematic for the joke. But they'll figure it out. If they know the song, if they get the song reference, then they'll figure out how I want it pronounced. Kind of like we're talking about those expressions. I'm trying to get them to think the way I want them to think. But in my Littlest Shuggoth book, I use this pronunciation there also, and yeah, you had to. It was a rhyming. The story was told in rhyming couplets, and I had some first readers and some editor friends of mine giving me suggestions, and everyone had an opinion on how that word should be pronounced. And I decided, you know what? I don't care. You can figure it out here. It's a weird word. You already know the word it's supposed to rhyme with. You'll figure it out. And if you disagree that that's how it's pronounced, well, then we can have a fun argument in the chats. All right, looking good. Let's turn off the sketch layer. I said off, sketch layer off. And look at this and say, all right, I need to add a few more lines to this so it reads right. There are times there are two things you need to be careful about when you're doing drawing, particularly line drawings. And one is not drawing enough lines to get across the. If you've got too much wide open spaces, then the brain will either fill it in with something or just say something's missing. I don't understand. And you don't want your audience to do that. You want them to just accept what you've got there. So putting too many lines on, or not, the two problems are putting too many and not enough. You need to put just the right amount. If you put too many, it starts getting busy, and the brain starts wondering, well, what does that mean? Why are there so many lines? What's going on? Am I missing something? There's a lot of lines there. It must mean something. And if you put too few, the brain will look there and sometimes say, why? What is that? It's not just a big flat open nothing. It's something there. What is it? What is that thing? And then they're thinking, and you don't want them thinking. You don't want your audience thinking about anything other than what you're telling them to think about. All right. So I'm going to come here. We're going to grab our gloaming brush. We're going to go to the coloring layer. And I'm going to grab a color which is similar to the one, almost identical to the one that we used for the for the beholder. And now that I say that, I must there may be some relationship that that's why I like the color for the beholders. That it's the same color that I like for Cthulhu. And I'm seeing the shapes within the shape, and I'm coloring to those shapes to help create this feeling of extra detail and texture. Have a faux black for the microphone, both of them. I'm going to have that kind of generic green that you often see and on the skirts of these convention tables. And maybe they usually have the tables covered in a white cloth, but I don't want it to be white. So I'm going to use a light blue-gray. There we go. Oh, I want to go back to that Cthulhu color. It didn't get his bottom there. We've got kind of there's usually a maroon color that the chair is. And then I'm going to go back to doing a brownish color for the stage, just like I did the other time. And a little darker for the end. That. And maybe a little lighter version for the front-facing side. You notice here I'm changing the direction that I'm coloring, again, to emphasize what I want to emphasize. It's a short thing. I want it to be vertical. The top of it is flat. I'm going back and forth kind of horizontally. I did it at this kind of an angle because that's the plane of the table. There we go. That's looking good. And I want the eyes to be yellow. Now for our cultist, I'm going to put him in a purple robe. That's a good color for a cultist robe. What else am I going to do? I'm going to erase out those lines I put on it so I can put something else in there. I'm going to make a gold color for the medallion that he's wearing. And I guess maybe I'll pick a dark red for... Ooh. See how the color just disappeared? It's like a weird magic trick. It's not a good one. So that's one of the problems working digitally. One of the potential problems is that there are hand signals. And you see a lot of people who do this wear a glove, and that's to avoid that. What happened there is the iPad read my hand touching it as being one of those signals. In fact, it was the undo signal, so it grabbed that color and took it out. So I sometimes will have to redraw things that I already put in because the the iPad has undone things that I've already done. There we go, and this person behind him will also get individual color because they're kind of standing in what you might at a Gallagher show called the splash zone. They're where the attention is already there, so I can't make them too generic. I want to be a person standing in line. It can't be one of those generic circle people, like the rest of the audience. And then maybe there we go. And then for the audience, I will come in here and I'm going to make them a blue color. Because, as we said before, the details don't matter. I'm, like I did before, going to grab a darker color than that and give the feeling that each of these are shapes within that massive color, but it's just one thing. It is the audience. They're individual shapes within the audience, but the audience is one big thing. There we go. Like that. And what do I need to do? I need to come back in again and give a little bit of that same emphasis treatment to Cthulhu. What I'm doing here with that curve, I want to make it look. I want to give an idea that he's got a paunch, that he's got a big stomach there, but it just looks flat. And I don't want to. Again, I don't want to draw the lines to do it because that'll be far too many lines. People will start freaking out over that. But if I put that little curve on it with the color, it now looks like it's a round belly. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about when I'm saying that doing these kinds of this kind of little bit of extra shading can give that feeling of shape and texture. It's definitely just that dark curve on the bottom gives that feeling that the whole thing is a rounded belly. And I say that like it's super easy and anyone can do that. Well, anyone can, but you need to practice some to find out when that's helpful and when it'll work. So there's a thing for you to practice and maybe start doing. All right, I think that's that. I guess if I've done that for Cthulhu, I probably ought to do it for the cultists in their robe. Not as much detail, but just a little. Again, because they are an important part, you want to make sure that they get enough emphasis that if everything else, if the crowd had that shading, if Cthulhu had that shading, and I didn't give something of that sort to the cultists, they would look weird. It would stand out. Like, why is that guy just a flat color? All right, so we will switch back to our inking brush, come back to our lines layer, change the color back to black, and I will come over here and put a Stan up on the stage because, I like to be on the stage. Do you know the way to Great Relay? Woohoo! And we've got Cthulhu in a seminar room. Yes, I was thinking about changing something, and I'm not going to. That is it. What do you think? I'm pretty happy with that. In fact, I think that we've got 3 pretty good ones this week. I think that first of all, I think they would all be funny to people at Gen Con. I think this one, if I redid it, and I could maybe sell it to fantasy or horror magazine if there still were ones that were buying them. Or I mean, I could put that out as a finished cartoon. I certainly will put it out like this, and it's a sketchy cartoon. This is a gag that could work in a finished format and could be saleable. Um, anyway, that was fun. That was fun. It was a good night. Just checking here to see what's going on. A lot of names got chosen for how cool they looked in print. Yes, Dale says that, and Dale knows a lot about that, having worked on the Forgotten Realms and being an editor on the Forgotten Realms. There are a lot of names in the Cthulhu mythos and in all kinds of fantasy and horror fiction that are there because they look cool on the page, and they are impossible or next to impossible to pronounce. If you have a chance, there's a really great excerpt. Ice-T, the rapper and actor and all many other things, did audiobook reading for some D&D short stories. I don't know how he got this gig, but he did, and there's a tape got out of him. He talked about it on his podcast about how he could not figure out how to pronounce these things and how ridiculous it was, and in ways that are much more colorful than what I'm saying now. So if you get a chance, look up Ice-T D&D audiobook, and you should be able to find that whole episode, or better yet, just a clip of him just kind of going off on what they had. They just called him in. He didn't know what he was being called in to read. Just called him in. They handed him this thing where he starts reading it, and he just keeps coming across these things. And how do you pronounce this? All right. So, having said all that, and take another little sip, and we're going to do an outro. You guys ready for a nice outro? Wrap the show up. Well, we had a good evening. 3 good cartoons. We have Great Cthulhu at a seminar room, Gen Con seminar. We have a Beholder in the exhibit hall. I look at this, I'm like, if I was going to do this one over for resale, it would certainly need to zoom back out so I could draw in some signage and things to make it clear that this was a seminar room. Because right now, that could be any crowded space, which is not a knock on it at all. That's what happens when we're doing these quick drawings. But if I was going to try and sell this one, that's the weakness I'd have to overcome in the art. Or that's a thing I would need to add to really get the message across. And then we started with a dragon at the opening ceremonies. And this is a joke that could be for any crowded space, but anyone who's been to Gen Con will definitely understand what is going on there. So there we go. That is our Gen Con themed episode of Random Encounters. Now, before we go, I have another thing I want to talk to you about. And that's the fact, take that off screen for a second while I mix things up here. That is the fact that if you like these drawings, and if you're watching this late, I'm sure you must like something about them. I have a Kickstarter. It's not my Kickstarter. There's a Kickstarter going now for a book of my cartoons. And I'm going to pull that up here now. It is called Damn It, Owen. And it's a book of cartoons that I did based on things that my friend and business partner, Owen K.C. Stevens, has said in either on podcasts or mostly in his social media feed. Some of them are weird half ideas. Some of them are typos. There's all kinds of things. But over the years, he will say these things that I think are so funny. I need to draw them so I can get them out of my head and move on. Owen is last year was diagnosed with cancer, and he's been fighting it, and the fight is going well. However, that's super expensive, as those of you who have any connection with the U.S. medical system know. He is racking up tons of medical debt. So we've come up with different ideas of things that we can do that will generate money for him while he is unable to really work the way he did. And so we knew that this book, we were going to make it sometime, because just collecting these cartoons. The book has over 100, I think it's 120 or 130 cartoons in it, plus kind of behind-the-scenes director's commentary notes from Owen and me, plus whatever the original post was that inspired the cartoon. So you get the cartoon, the original post, and director's commentary about the cartoon for 120 or 130 different cartoons that I've done over the years. The big chunk of the money that this is going to generate is going to go to Owen. Be upfront, some of it will come to me. Been working on this project, and part of the idea was I would get some payment, but I also, working on this project, said, you know what, it's important that we do this to help Owen, so to help him generate some cash. So that's going on. The Kickstarter ends on Sunday, which is why I bring this up right now. The Kickstarter ends on Sunday, August 4th, the last day of Gen Con. So if you are watching now, I would appreciate it if you don't, I'm not asking you necessarily to buy it. If you don't want it, you don't have to buy it. But I'm asking everyone for help spreading the word. We need to get everyone that might be interested to know about this before it ends on Sunday. So please, 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 if you're watching this, and you're a fan of my work, or you're a fan of Owen's work, or you just think this is a good idea, please make a post about it. You can find this image on my social media. You can find it, and I encourage you to borrow it and retweet it. Tell the world about it. And if it does seem appealing to you, by all means, go ahead and back it. It's a fun book. I'm proud of these cartoons. They're very similar to what we do here on the show. They're quickly done, trying to capture an idea. Unlike, they aren't die-generated. They're Owen-generated. I didn't see them coming, and these are the cartoons that sprang into my head. So please, as I say, if you want to, back it. I encourage that. But I'm not pushing for that. I'm pushing for you to please help us tell the world about it here before the Kickstarter ends on Sunday. And it's Sunday morning, too. 10 a.m. Pacific time is when the Kickstarter ends. So, yeah, there you go. I'm going to close this show with this up so people can see it as long as possible. Thank you, everyone who showed up today. I think we had a lot of fun. I think we came up with some very good cartoons and some good jokes coming in from the audience. You guys were a big part of today's show. So I'm going to just scroll over here and see who we have. Bacon Gaming and Michael Pastor and Dale Donovan, of course, and David Shepard. Who else was here? Penny Firehorse was here for quite a while. Chris Andro was in. Ogre stopped in and gave us a very good idea before he had to pop out. So thank you all. Thank you all. Oh, Garrett Vance! I missed that! Wow, are you still around here? You still watching? I'm sorry I missed your name there in the feed. Thank you for showing up. An old friend of mine from my time teaching English in Japan. And a guy I gamed with when we were living in Tokyo. He wrote a cartoon that I published. I did the drawing for and published in the newsletter for the gaming group that we belong to. So, many years later, kudos to you, Garrett. Whew. All right, so no Gen Con for us, unless you're watching. If you were watching this on replay because you were at Gen Con, I hope you had a good time. leave us a comment. Let us know what went on. What did you see that you think we'd like? Hopefully, knock on wood, maybe I'll make it to Gen Con next year or some other convention. In the meanwhile, thank you everyone who watched live. Thank you everyone who's watching on replay. Do some drawing for yourself, just for fun, and I will see you back here next week for another episode of Random Encounter.